So you've been creating content for super long time. I have seen your first video on YouTube.
Oh
It's been
no.
a 2009 jacket review.
Oh my God.
And it was so good though, like your flow, like the yeah, all the details. It was great.
Wow, this podcast starts very, very embarrassing. Yeah, it's been a long time. I've been on social media for quite some time.
No, it's great. It's great, and I mean, you've been running your website. You're doing Instagram, and you have you have a lot of followers on different channels. So I mean, yeah, I mean the jacket review is probably a little bit too aggressive for first question. But tell me about your the other. I saw the other day you had an Instagram video, and that was about cereal. The when you were like, it was just a funny one, which I thought was so funny.
Yeah.
So you made this shorter, and it was great. Talk me about like your approach when you're making this funny Instagram videos with, and you have like your family members. How do you come up with, or how do you go from an idea to like the whole filming thing?
Sure. That was actually when lockdown first happened and everybody was getting on TikTok. And I'm like, what is this platform? I was shying away from TikTok for the longest time because I don't know if you're on it, but it's the user experience isn't always great. The video plays right away and it's like loud and you're trying to
In your
adjust the
face.
sound and everything. Yeah, very in your face, but I think that's their strategy, right? They just want you to consume as much content as possible. And I was like, this is not my thing. I'm too old. I'm in my 30s. No. And then COVID-19 happened and I was just bored a couple of times a week. And I was like, I'm just going to come up with skits and film them and see where it takes me. So the cereal one that you mentioned, that's actually really funny because it's something I've never done. My husband tells me all the time that I'm funny, but I don't think I'm funny. And then he's like, just do some of your skits because you're actually ridiculous.
It was great. I loved it.
That's good. I'm glad. So I did a few of those, and they got picked up on TikTok, which was nice. I got some viewership there, and then I repurposed them on Instagram because these days it's so much nicer to be able to repurpose content in similar ways. And then it did well on Instagram, and I was like, okay, now people know that I'm funny, yay. Um, that was really just, like the skits are really just one-offs, but I guess my broader strategy is more, I like my personality to show through my stories, my posts, whatever I'm doing. I'm less crazy about that cohesive, pretty looking feed. Like, when you go on Instagram and everything is that same color or
Oh,
same
branded,
filter.
sleek looking.
Yeah. And it's great. Some people pull it off really well. But for me, I'm very much so that like whimsical, crazy, like energetic person. And that's the kind of feed that I like to have. So, yeah. And
It's
I
it's
guess
pretty
the
cool.
cereal video just worked well.
No, that was great, and it's and you totally make a great point. Is when when you're scrolling on your Instagram or when you're scrolling on your, well, maybe not LinkedIn in this case, maybe TikTok, where like
Yeah.
you have people who are so brand focused on, they want to be so slick, they have like this certain brand guidelines, versus when you're just posting and being like yourself, when you don't really necessarily care how it might look like. It actually stands out.
Oh, I'm glad. I'm glad to hear it.
What do you do? Like, I'm curious. So, how do you come up with a skit? Like, so let's say you decide to do it. Like, how do you come up with ideas, and then what do you do to film that?
Sure. Normally, I'm in the shower and I come up with an idea. Like usually, I'm like using different products or whatever it is, and I'll come up with ideas. I actually use Google Drive for organizing everything. So I have my content calendar on there. I have kind of like this running list of ideas. So even if I'm cooking, I'm in the shower, whatever it is, it's so nice that you're able to like go on your phone and quickly add those ideas so you don't lose them. So that's kind of how I do it, and then throughout the week, I just batch content. So if I
Right.
look at my week ahead on Monday, I'm like, okay, today's the day that I'm going to strategize for the week and what's going to go on Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. And then maybe Tuesday is like more of the filming day. And then Wednesday is more of like being on my computer, writing down everything and then scheduling for the next week. With skits, that's something very, very new to me. when I really started getting into TikTok now, I'm not so much on it. Like
Hmm.
I feel like I just don't have the time. But when I was really in it during that like first month of quarantine, I was actually drawing them like on paper, which
Oh, I
is,
like that.
yeah, it just brings you back to like, I guess filmmaking or things or even animation and stuff. A lot of people still rely on that pen and paper, and I would like literally scribble down my ideas, what I was thinking for each cut, and it really helped because when you're filming, you're like in different places, and so
Yes.
I would follow whatever I drew. With the cereal one, for example, I asked my husband to help me film that, and we did the multiple skits in one go. Like we didn't wait through the rest of the day, but it was like, let's add more cereal boxes to the back. And he's a really fun creative guy too, so as much as it's me, it's also him helping me out.
Right.
So yeah, I think like getting your ideas down as soon as you have them is so important, because you never know when down the road you're going to want to pick that idea up, or when you're really stuck like in almost like a writer's block. You can go back to your ideas and refresh yourself, which is always a good thing.
And it's interesting because when I do, I also do videos now, and I started doing skits. And to me, it's interesting. Like, do you go like super hard on a script, or do you actually do it in an unscripted manner? Because you've been doing YouTube videos for a while, but it's just to me so interesting. Like, how do you whenever if you do it like super scripted, then sometimes it just kills the edge, dulls the
Yeah,
edge in a way.
yeah,
Versus if you do it totally unscripted, you actually end up doing like 100 takes, and it's like it's like just like a jello.
yeah.
It's nothing really concrete, right?
Yeah, I agree with you. I actually watch a lot of YouTubers myself, and I can always tell when someone has a script versus when someone is unscripted. It just the way that like your speak flows is so different. For me, I will sketch out my ideas. I will write down what I want to talk about. So, for instance, if I'm sharing tips on, motherhood or baby life or whatever it is, I will write down the things I really want to talk about, but I'm not going to write a full on script of like, this is how I raised my child. Like, it's going to be very, I'll write down the products so I remember to mention them, but I won't do a full on script.
For sure.
Yeah, the only time you kind of have to sometimes present a script is when you're working on a branded like partnership. So if I'm working with a brand, then they obviously have those key messages that they want you to implement. And so I will do that, but I'm always transparent with them about how it's not going to be fully like what I write down here, because it just doesn't flow naturally that
Exactly.
way. Some people I'm sure are really great at it, and it's probably a skill that you learn over time. But for me, I find like just turning on the camera and talking, and if you got to repeat yourself, that's okay. You can always cut it out. But what I found is that the more I do this, the better I get at that speak. So the more you're on, your IG stories, the more you're just talking on YouTube, the more you're doing even like podcasts like this, the better you get over time.
Get less choppy, right? You actually are making less mistakes in your talk. It's like
Exactly.
the flow is so much better.
Yeah, and sometimes it's just your mindset, right? Like you could wake up on a Monday and you're like, okay, I have to film today, but you're not fully there. Like maybe you've had a cup of coffee, but you're not fully there. What I do is I just like put on some Beyonce or dance around my condo or something, just to like jazz yourself up. Even if I need to do an Instagram story, something small, but I'm
Mhm.
not feeling it. You've got to know what is going to get you there. So for me, I like to get dressed up. I like to have my makeup on. I like to have caffeine in me, and then I'm good to go.
And it
So
makes difference. I mean, it's a big thing, right?
totally.
You have to. It's not just like, okay, it's 11 a.m. I have to go and create. It's you
Yeah.
have to figure out, and I mean, you have to figure out how to get into the process, because once you are
Yes.
in it, it's a lot easier. But to get there, you're like, oh my god. And there are so many different tools, right? Like if you're trying to read a book, like, oh, I'm gonna read one word or like one
Yeah.
page.
Yeah, exactly. It just, you have to know what works for you. And sometimes I wake up, like maybe I thought I'll film everything on Thursday, but I wake up on Thursday super groggy, not in the mood of talking. And that's when you mess up the most. And it's okay. You just, maybe you try filming another day and use that day to write instead. So having that flexibility in your schedule is nice too.
Definitely. So when you started with you're doing it on so many different channels, and your main topic is your makeup, right? makeup
Yes.
and
Yeah.
hair and all of this really cool, very popular topics. So, what was your experience? So, you do video, you do blog, you do the website. What do you see the channel that performs really well for you? If you could,
Sure.
if there's one.
Sure. I think that for me, Instagram was the one that really started to pick up for me. It just naturally, as I was sharing whatever I was posting on my blog, or I would do a short of my YouTube video, Instagram just picked it up, and a lot of I guess it got more eyeballs. That's where I get my most traffic from as well, either through Instagram stories or people going to my bio to click whatever I'm promoting. So Instagram is one that I always like to have a strategy, somewhat of a strategy for. So I know that I need to post 4 to 5 times a week to keep that engagement up. I like to show up on my Instagram stories daily. So I even strategize like what I'm going to share on Instagram stories sometimes every day, just so I know what to go in with. With YouTube, it's been difficult. Like
Hmm.
I love the platform. I love video. I consume video all the time. But for me, it's just a balance of trying to keep up with my blog, trying to keep up with Instagram, YouTube, all these new platforms now, TikTok. And to be honest, with YouTube, I just don't have the time always to edit the video. So sometimes I
Oh,
film like
we just talked about it before we started.
exactly. Sometimes I'll film like 3 videos a day, and then I'm like, what do I do with these videos? And it'll take me like 3 months to film those 3 videos. So one tip that I'm actually learning myself is to delegate. So find out the pain points of what's stopping you. So for me, I want to be on YouTube. I want to put out more videos, and I want that to be my, third most popular platform or whatever. What's it going to take? Do I need to hire an editor? Do I need to hire support? So that's kind of what I'm learning.
So you, I mean, that was one of the things that I thought about you is where I post mostly on LinkedIn. I do YouTube videos, and that's it for now. I do a little bit of TikTok, and it's
Yeah.
already too much. Because I'm doing it myself, it's so much.
Yeah.
Because I have to post on LinkedIn every day, and I do a lot of videos, and yes, I do the podcast, which I should have factored in. So
Yeah.
it's a lot for one person. Do you find
Totally.
what are the channels that you focus on the most, or you I mean besides Instagram that you mentioned?
Sure. I really like to focus on my actual website, because here's the thing: if Instagram or YouTube were to shut down tomorrow, what do you have left? So I like to focus on my website. I like to have content up at least once or twice a week that is basically on the website, and not just linking to a video, linking to my Instagram. So and now I'm trying to like gain traffic again on my website. So actually Pinterest these days has been like my favorite.
Oh, interesting.
Pinterest is like a hidden secret for content traffic, I swear. If you can figure out a nice strategy for your Pinterest and create boards that kind of match your theme, match your content pillars, and really build on that, you'll be really surprised at how quickly that traffic grows.
Organically,
Um,
right?
Organically, exactly. Yeah. So Pinterest was years ago for me. It was like I used to call it my digital wish list. It's like, this is the home I want. These are the recipes I want to make. Blah blah blah. And I was just randomly putting things up, and I didn't love it so much. So then maybe about a month ago, I actually deleted all of my previous pins. Before my current website with Anum.com, I actually used to have summerxskin.com, and that I had for many many years. So these days, I'm really trying to build traffic up to my new website. With Pinterest, I deleted everything, deleted my old posts, all that jazz. And then probably about a month ago, I started from zero, and it's already at like maybe 16K views. Like every week it's like 1,000 or so views that come up, and I'm just shocked. I'm
That's
shocked
amazing.
at the
And
traffic.
this is
Yeah.
this is all. Do you think it's mostly blogs, or it's also like the video content that you link?
Yeah, I started with blog posts, but you kind of have to sprinkle in other people's content as well. So you're not just self-promoting. You want to engage with people in your niche, or content that's similar to yours.
Right.
And so initially I started with my blog posts, but now I'm putting some of my Instagram videos, some of my YouTube videos, and I'm starting to see the traffic, which is key, because now I'm like, okay, I need to have a proper strategy for this because it's working.
Of course. And do you do email? Like, do you do a newsletter?
Um, so I actually have promoted it in the past. It was something that I never stuck to a schedule, and I feel like when you don't have a schedule for it, that's kind of when it falls off. So I'm actually planning to relaunch it because I think like having an email list is so huge. So I'm hoping probably by the end of the summer I get on that train.
Yeah, I mean,
Do you have an email?
I do have an email list. So similarly to you, I got to like 60 subscribers, I think. Like not that many,
That's
but I got
great.
them got them pretty quickly, and then I fell off probably like 6 months ago. I'm like, well, it's like, what I think is happening is when you start writing this big fancy newsletters or really good pieces of content, they're great, but then you end up
Yeah.
spending way too much time, and then very quickly it becomes a drag where you're like, oh my god, I have to. You already feel the pain 2 days before you're supposed to write about it. So that's where I
Yes.
found like you have to start like micro small.
Yeah, yeah, I agree. I agree with you wholeheartedly. That's why I feel like you really need to hone in on one platform, do it really, really well. Like for me, Instagram is that one platform where I'm doing pretty well. I have a good schedule for it. And now I'm diving back into YouTube and seeing how I can build that strategy better for myself. And then it'll be, adding in the email newsletter, adding in more things. And content burnout is a thing too, which is why it's so important to get that help if you need it, get the support if you need it. As you grow, reinvest in your content so that you can actually grow more.
That's the idea. Well, what
Yeah.
is this? What is it about? I mean, obviously, so you started posting content a long time ago.
Yeah.
It's probably started from your interest, right? Interest in the
Yes.
makeup, interest in products. It's clearly your passion.
Yeah, it actually, okay, funny enough, I started my internet journey when I was like in grade 9. So I was that person on LiveJournal, Asian Avenue, like all those different websites where you can like learn how to create a website. I was really into graphic design at one point. So I was creating all my graphics on like Illustrator and Photoshop. But then I went to school for journalism, and one of our projects was actually to start a YouTube channel. That's actually why
Oh,
there are
really?
old videos of me with jackets, promoting these like jacket winter coats.
I remember you
And
were
there's
saying, "Oh, don't buy it; it's terrible." Like it's just like I didn't feel warm at all.
yeah, so it was actually, it just landed in my lap so nicely because it was part of a school project. We had to learn how to like video edit and like put up a YouTube channel, do the channel art, whatever it was back in 2010. And I think at the time you couldn't even have custom thumbnails. Like it was really bad thumbnails
Oh, I'm
too, where
sure
you
it
had
was
to
very
like pick the
limited.
screen grabs. Yeah, and I started that's actually where I started Summer X Skin, and Summer X Skin is it's actually Summer Skin is a Death Cab for Cutie song, and I was really into it at the time. I'm like, this is like the perfect name. I started a beauty and fashion blog to go with it a couple of years later, and that's how my journey started. Last year, I actually rebranded just because I felt like the name wasn't me. It was never really me. It was just something that landed in my lap, and I grew it. So last year I started doing more lifestyle and talking more about like my mom life, motherhood, all these fun topics. So yeah,
And and
it
and
was all school.
that's amazing. And along with
Yeah,
that, you get the traffic, you get the exposure to your audience, and then you can promote brands, or you could actually get partnerships with brands and place their products into your content.
exactly. Yeah.
So what's do you have like a longer term vision with content, like, or what would you like to do in the future with it? I mean, because it's a hard. I mean, everybody who creates content, it's not a you like it. I mean, I think you love chatting with people, but it's a lift.
Yeah, it definitely is. I think that if you it's so tricky because obviously a lot of people love doing it, love creating content, but then maybe the end goal is yes, you want to turn it into a full-time thing, turn it into, making money. For me, I can't imagine not doing it in the next 5 years. It's one of those things where I've been doing it for the last, I don't know, like 8 years. And if I were to turn off next week, I'm like, I'm bored. It's like I have my camera. I'll still be doing it naturally in some way, shape, or form. So I definitely still see myself doing it like for quite some time. But really, my end goal is to launch something bigger. You know, I think I'm ready to have my own kind of online studio, working with clients. I've done it on the side before. I've worked full time as well in social media, and so my end goal is to hopefully navigate that aspect and have some of my audience follow me there and learn social media tips from me, which would be really fun.
It will be. It will be because I think you have this personality that is just so really, really great to just interact with from
Thank
the
you.
content perspective. I see sometimes I would go on YouTube and there would be somebody a millennial probably talking about social media or talking about YouTube, and they're so like I feel like they're on drugs or something, and so you get like I get turned off straight away. So
Yeah.
I think a big part of it is because I mean, of course, everybody talks about the same thing, but your personality is something that it's that differentiator.
Thank you. I really appreciate that. Yeah, I think I'm with you. I follow a lot of, online business coaches and social media gurus, and they're great. They're doing really well, but it's not always your journey, right? So I want to be able to sell my services more organically instead of like pushing it in your face or doing these long like funnel campaigns, and just being more me and bringing that out. And for me, it's really about helping other people that are on social media, whether it's learning how to do cool IG stories
Hmm.
or how to show up as yourself on camera, like even tips around that. Those are the things that I really want to share with my audience. So hoping that's the goal in the next year or so.
And you did vlogs, right, for a bit of time.
Yes. Yeah.
How did that go?
I love vlogging. I love doing it when I'm traveling. Of course, we can't do it right now, but I think those are some of my favorite vlogs to watch and to film, because when you look back on it, it's so amazing. Like you look back on a trip or something and all the different things you did, or if you're ever at that place again and you need recommendations, you can look at your own content. So whenever we used to travel, we always did that. And these days I'm trying to pick it up more.
Hmm.
So I have another one coming very, very shortly as I'm diving back into YouTube, but vlogging comes very naturally to me. It's just like I love picking up the camera and just talking, and I kind of shifted that onto my stories and shared similar experiences there. But yeah, I'm really hoping to pick it up again
So,
soon.
so not having anxiety of putting stuff online for people to see.
Yeah, no, I think I broke that a long time ago. I've been on the internet for so long that if you wanted to find dirt on me or whatever it is, I'm sure you'll find it.
It's like Seth Godin says, type set in Google, and
Yeah.
there you go. Same thing with you, right?
Yeah, yeah. And I think, sorry, go on.
I'm just gonna say that like I hear so many people like, oh yeah, I want to create content, I want to create videos, but I'm super scared to put it out, right? Because like
Yeah.
everybody's gonna be judging you, and I mean, of course they will be, because I
Hmm.
mean they will judge you even when you're in person.
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, I want like my suggestion always is to, well, you have to start. You have to ask yourself a question: what's the worst thing that can happen? Like you're probably not going to get killed, or like you're not going to be homeless. Like all those
Yeah.
fears that we have,
Yeah.
and then just start something. Start super small, and then but do it in a consistent way.
Totally. I love that advice. And I think imposter syndrome is something that probably everybody faces in different aspects. Some people have that with video, some people have it with their work, like they just feel like maybe they're not good enough or people are judging,
Hmm.
the work that they're producing. And it's hard to get over it, but you just have to remember that like if this is your dream, if this is something you're constantly thinking about, you have to start with day one, right? I love this quote where it's like day one or one day, and you're constantly like one day I'll do it, right? Because one day maybe I'll be more popular and like all these people will enjoy my videos, or one day I'll have an audience somewhere and they'll come to my videos naturally. But you have to shift that mindset of like today is day one. I'm getting on camera. I'm gonna do this, and over time you will get better.
It's one of my favorite lines is from Jacko Willink. This guy, he's a former Navy SEAL, and he has all this motivational talks, and he says like, uh, when people ask me, when should I start? He's like, you should start right now.
I love
It's
that.
like, and it's, everybody laughs. And I feel like, people don't really get it. They're like, yeah, yeah, for
Yeah,
sure. But then it's the truth.
it's the truth. Yeah. Totally. And a lot of times I get asked if it's oversaturated, if like blogging is oversaturated, or maybe there's too many Instagrammers. But yes, there are a lot, but there's going to be someone that will relate to you, whether it's, 5 people or 25 people or 1,000 people. There will be people that will relate to you, that will come to you for your content. So, yeah, I think you should just do it.
What do you think about differentiation? Yes, I agree. Double thumbs up for that. What do you think about differentiation? Like, when, like to your point, there's so much content being created, and sometimes, like, I would scroll through LinkedIn, and I'm like, oh my God, there's like a 200,000 people doing the same thing, and what do you usually tell people if they ask you, like, how do I differentiate from others?
I think that starting with things that you really want to share, so whether it's one niche or a couple of niches that you want to focus on, I think that there's still space for it. I started a beauty channel like years ago. I started my beauty website and everything, and there were already beauty gurus happening in this world, but not everybody's always going to lean on the beauty gurus because they're like making their millions of dollars or whatever they're doing, right? They want to find someone who's relatable, maybe a Toronto girl who takes the city bus, so having that unique quality about you and adding that to your content, I think that's what's going to sell, and that's what's going to get that viewership. Even on LinkedIn, like I don't do LinkedIn as much. I would like to. Again, so much content, only such little time. But even on LinkedIn, yes, some people are sharing the same content, but their voice is different. Like someone's voice is going to resonate more with you than someone else who might be sharing similar content. So
I found that the posts that really perform well that I've seen on LinkedIn are pretty well, for me at least, they've been pretty aggressive. Like I actually put up some really controversial statement, and there's a bit of a weirdness going on in the comments. Like,
I feel like you had a very controversial one a couple of months ago. I don't remember what it was though.
Yeah, I think I posted a couple, and I think it was
about. A good one.
I don't remember what it was, but sometimes I get really annoyed with something,
Yeah.
And I'm like, I'm just gonna post about it. The latest one I did was on that you want to hire the marketer who could write versus a journalist, and everybody who had a journalist degree, they felt really in a way offended, and they're like, no, I don't agree with that.
I'll tell you right now. How dare you?
I knew that.
So there was like a bit of back and forth happening in your comments.
Yes. I had a few people who messaged me. They're like, that's like BS. And no, I totally get it. I think people are so sensitive, and it's it's a statement that is very provocative. And maybe like you want to explain more. Like, well, this doesn't apply to people who did journalism and can do this and this and this. But I think like you want to put up your opinion.
Totally. I did something similar where right as quarantine life was starting and people were putting up these like depressing posts about how they have nothing to do, or like, juggling their parent life or the XYZ, like all of these things. And I did a post. I was actually really nervous to publish it, but I did a post about just staying positive, because no matter what's happening, like this is life, this is what we have to deal with. So why not take it with a different approach, a more positive approach, and think of these things instead. Like you're getting this time with your kids that you'll never have. And, maybe you never see your spouse, but now you're seeing them all the time. Like there's all these positive ways of looking at a more negative situation. And I was actually really afraid that I would get a lot of like, clash in the comments, but a lot of people are like, you're absolutely right. Like, or they're like, this is the positivity I needed today. And so you might put those controversial topics up, but you never know what the response is going to be. And maybe it's someone who's not even responding that's like, yes, I agree with you, but
there are a lot
you
of
may
those.
never see that. Yeah,
sometimes it comes up in a conversation like, oh, I've seen your post, and you're like, well, you should have liked it, but thank you.
Oh, I know, I know. It's crazy how many eyeballs are on your post and how many likes or comments you'll get. It's like it's not hard to just double tap and
Yeah,
like that,
exactly. Just
like
just
that
just
post.
heart it right
Yeah,
now. Don't just
yeah,
pass by. But I mean, it also, goes to a point where like so many people consume the content, not create.
yeah, yes, exactly. So I think just create. You never know.
Yeah, and I mean, to be honest, like I think with brand, like that is like Gary Vee says, and I totally on board with him. Is that like that's the only biggest differentiator that you've got, because if you don't have a brand, you always will be a subject of opinions, and you will be very dependent on the company you work for in a way, and
Totally.
you really can't have. It will be hard to have big impact, and like everybody has the same tools, which is crazy. I'm telling to
Yes.
my brother all the time, look, you have the upload button, it's the same one. And
Yes.
so it's just like, why don't you do that? We all have access to internet.
Yeah, yeah, no, I love that so much. And it's like people come up with all of these barriers or things, it's like, I don't have a camera, I don't have this, I don't have that. You've got your phone. You can buy a tripod from Amazon that's really cheap. Like
For 10 bucks.
you don't, yeah, yeah, you don't need these fancy things. If you've got something to say, whether it's written, video, whatever it is, you need to be saying it because someone else on this planet of like billions of people, someone else is thinking the same thing as you and they're waiting for someone to say it. So, yeah.
I've heard this quote that I thought was so interesting. It was from LinkedIn because I do spend quite a bit of time there. Is
Yeah.
there's somebody like you who puts out content that is worse and ideas that are worse, but they're doing it and you are not,
Yes. Yes. Very
right?
strong. I like that. Yeah.
Because
I
it's
need to
true.
add
Like
that to my Pinterest.
that would be a good addition. Well,
Yeah.
we get a little bit more or those organic views.
Yeah.
Let me ask you this, Adam. So one of the things I find that is always a challenge whenever you create content is how do you come up with the ideas of what to write about or what to film? And there's so many ways to do it. I would be curious to know like what do you do? What are some of the things that you do throughout the week, maybe throughout the months,
Sure.
that help you to say like, hey, these are the things I want to be writing about or filming.
Sure. Great question. So I do this with myself, but I also do it with any client that I may have or that I may be consulting with. But I always think of content pillars. So you want to have, 4 to 6 content pillars that you're focusing on. So if you are in the travel industry, you're going to talk about what to pack, or you're going to have your 4 to 6 pillars, and there's going to be days when you're coming up with all these ideas, and I think the best thing is honestly to just write them down. For me, as I mentioned before, it comes so randomly to me. Like I'll be cooking or I'll be listening to a podcast and I'm like, oh, no one's talked about like why you should buy these things from the drugstore and not from Sephora, so I'm going to do a post on that, and I have that coming up next week actually. But it's just these
Nice.
random things that you think about, that you have to write down, and you have to somehow fit them into those pillars. And then once you do have kind of like even a small audience, it doesn't even have to be tons of people. I go to my audience a lot. So a lot of times I'll put a question box. I'll be like, what kind of content do you want to see? I'll give them some ideas. So it probes them to actually respond. Or I'll be going through my DMs or comments and just being like, that gives me an idea. So just finding those ideas through comments, through people talking to you, through just random things that you're doing throughout the day, and it's like, oh, that's what I need to write about.
Do you
um
look at content that already performs well, or any trends, discovery, explore sections?
yes, yeah, that's a really good point. I actually do that a lot. So I go to Google Trends. I've set certain alerts where it's like what's happening in beauty, what's happening in certain spaces, and even some brands that I follow that I work with a lot. I have those written down. Sorry, I have them set up as alerts. So I'm always consuming that content, and it'll probe more ideas. And then what you mentioned, going into your analytics, that's such a good point. I can't believe I haven't mentioned it before. I go into my analytics all the
Hmm.
time, and I look at what platforms are performing well. So even though I'm spending all this time on Instagram, is it actually getting me the conversion, or do I need to switch strategy? And then, like you mentioned, yeah, if my certain like travel posts are doing really well, or these days I've been sharing a lot of baking recipes because quarantine life, and that's all I've been doing. And surprisingly, it's doing really well. So I'm
Right.
like, well, now I need to have a recipe a week. And I changed my strategy completely.
It captures the
Um,
trend, right?
Exactly. And a lot of people are baking, probably not anymore because it's so humid, but a lot of people were, there's a time where a lot of people were baking, they were into that content. So I shifted strategy and made more baking recipes.
I like that. So what do you? I mean, one of the things that I've heard from Gary Vee, and it's such a valid point that I haven't probably done enough, is when you, let's say, you find this big industry news, or you find a big thing. Let's say Sephora closes all stores in Canada. Like
Yeah.
you would be talking about it for sure because you've been doing it for a long time, and I mean, you're such an like you're in this industry. How do you adapt that news to you, to your personality, to your style? Or in a similar way, maybe it's some other industry news. How do you, what do you do if you have thought about it, or if you do it consciously? Like, what do you do to make sure that this is an Anum's take on this?
That's a really good question. For me, if something like that were to happen, a lot of times so because a lot of people come to me for those recommendations of beauty products or XYZ, or maybe I've sold them on a certain brand and all of a sudden Sephora shuts down and you don't know where to access that brand. So the way that I would approach it is like, Sephora is shutting down, but don't worry, you can still buy XYZ products at this place instead. And I kind of retarget them, and often I'll share my thoughts in something like Instagram stories or even on Twitter, and get the audience's thoughts and see like how they're feeling about it and how I can help kind of navigate that conversation for them.
Right,
But
right.
yeah, so I would try to retarget them, try to help out, like if they're, if they're still looking for that similar product or whatever, I'll try to find another spot for them to buy it from.
Well, that, of course, that
Yeah.
makes sense. What do
Yeah.
you think about the volume, content volume? A lot of times, I would hear that somebody starts the activity on whatever platform, and they're like, "Oh my God, I'm getting like 0 likes, or I'm getting 1 like." And what Gary Vee would always say is like, "Look, you got to be posting like 7 times a day, specific."
Yeah.
And what are your thoughts on like volume versus just doing it in a more moderate
Sure.
amount?
I think volume is great. I think volume is good if A, you are being consistent with it, and B, you are producing quality content. So for like creators, and this is something I see a lot of times, I see, you're posting the 7 days a week. Sure, maybe you're getting the likes, you're getting the follows, you're getting that engagement, but your captions are filler captions. It's like, it's sunny outside today, and here's like a pretty photo of me. It depends on what your goal is. If you're trying to like ultimately get people to buy from you, or sell a product or something, you're not enticing them that way. So it really depends on what your goal is and how you can kind of map that into your strategy. For me, and I try to practice this as much as possible, but consistency. So I know that I can't show up on a platform every single day, but I can promise maybe 2 videos on YouTube a week, or I can promise 4 Instagram posts. And the more you're transparent with your audience, like the more you tell them, like, expect my video Tuesday and Friday, or expect my Instagram Monday, Wednesday, Friday. And you don't even sometimes have to say that. They just pick it up like, oh, she's posting every other day. And that's something you can keep up with. That's something where you are giving that quality content and not just like, here's a random post just for the sake of posting. I feel like it's just a better long-term strategy. What do you
Yeah.
think?
Yeah, I think, yeah, I totally agree. Like, I think consistency makes a big difference. I've seen it even in my podcast numbers
Yeah.
where, like, if it's not specific, it doesn't have to be necessarily on a certain day. It doesn't have to be, let's say, every Tuesday. It could be Tuesday or Wednesday, but it has to
Yes.
be every week. It has to be.
Yes.
It has to be because you're expecting. It's like you're subscribing to a magazine. Same thing. You
Yes.
you're
Yeah.
you're you're a publisher. You're a
Yeah.
publisher
Totally.
with your own take. Yeah, I think it's important. I found that volume also helps, if possible, but this is more like an advanced step where like you could do that, but it's
Yeah.
also like I think you need to have more creative muscle to build up the idea generation to not put up
Exactly.
like the sun quotes, right?
Hmm.
Or sunshine quotes.
Totally. And I think volume is great because, as you mentioned, it is like you're more of a publication and you're constantly entertaining your audience. The way that I've seen volume work really, really well is when they have a team behind them. So when it's not just one person editing, filming, writing
Right.
everything, but they have a virtual assistant who helps them with the branding aspect of things, or they have an editor that edits all their videos and photos. Like every time I've seen someone produce in like mass amounts and posting like multiple times a week on multiple channels or even multiple times a day, I find that they actually have a team behind them. So actually, I get this question quite often
Hmm.
where some people are like, I want to post every single day, but I can't do it because like, I have my kid or I have this, I have a life to live, I have a full-time job. And it's like, you have to almost remind your audience that like, if they are into doing something like this, you have to remember that these people have teams behind them. Like they have a whole
Yes.
maybe even a corporation, right? Like these big YouTube gurus have a whole team behind them. They
And
have
don't be
PR.
discouraged.
They have all of these people. Whatever you're able to do and commit to, I think is that should be what you're producing. And then over time, if you feel like you're growing and you can hire extra help to like grow faster or better,
Yeah.
then you'll go that route.
Oh, for sure. I think, the biggest thing that affects people who create content, and even me sometimes, you go on your platform and you see this
Mm-hmm.
amazing pieces of content that are being produced. You're like holy shit, like this guy's already like 25 steps ahead. That's one of
Yeah.
the reasons why you shouldn't actually consume anything until you actually shouldn't really
Yes.
consume too much. You create first and then you could consume, because like once you start consuming, then you end up comparing your level 1 to level 562 of somebody else who's been in the game for 10 years, and
Yeah.
you don't really see that. You
Yeah.
don't really see it on the surface level. You're like, oh my God, I'm terrible. Not true. It's if
So
you look
true.
at that person post one, they were probably almost certainly worse than you are.
Yeah. Yeah, totally. And you're not seeing the, a lot of times when they are posting multiple times a day or whatever volume, they're actually repurposing a lot of content through different channels. And you might not be seeing the full story, which is what you mentioned. I think that's such a good point. You just got to start somewhere.
Yeah, you got to start somewhere. And one of the quotes that I've just blew me away literally recently, maybe not a quote, it was from a Gary Vee's interview. Gary was interviewed, and he said, "Look, when I was in early 30s, I posted nothing. Like I had zero content, and Gary
Yeah.
Vee probably creates more content than anybody else now, and he had not no content when he was in his early 30s.
Yeah.
So the point is like, don't complain."
Yeah. Yeah. That's a really good point. Very good
So
point.
yeah, I think we should just do more of it. Anna, what do you think about creating content in B2B? I mean, you've been in B2B a little bit. What do you think that is different, or that holds companies up to produce in a way that actually delivers result, and not as a point where it's just a check mark? Oh, we tweeted, and nothing happened.
Yeah, yeah. And a lot of people just get discouraged too because they look at the Gary V's or they look at someone who's already so big, but they're not looking at the journey. They're not looking at like how you mentioned Gary Vee when he was 30, like he had no content and then just hustled, And you're not looking at so many of those things, even with a lot of celebrities, actors, actresses. Like sometimes I watch a really old movie and I'm like, so and so was like so young in that movie, like they were children,
Yeah,
but
exactly.
they worked their way up, and now they have Academy Awards or what have you. And it's to me that journey is so inspiring. I don't know about you, but it's like
Extremely.
that's the journey I want, and that's what I love the whole experience of this all. So um, and then I also remember that there are a lot of people who may not have the millions of subscribers, but they're doing well. They are producing the content that they love. They're working with brands that they've always wanted to work with. They're having their dreams fulfilled, but it's at a smaller scale.
Yeah, there's nothing that motivates me, that drives me more than than really hearing people who overcame it against all the odds. And probably because I'm an immigrant, and
Yeah.
when I came here like 6 years ago, I could barely speak English. Like I could really, I have a hard time putting three words
That's
together.
hard to believe.
I know, and it's so weird because I'm like, I was so excited I'm gonna hang out with Canadians, and what ended up happening is I sat with them at like the like a restaurant, and I can hear, I can't really say anything, because I can't really put my thoughts together, like, and I think
Yeah.
very fast, like I'm a very fast thinker, but I can't say anything. So it ended up being like that for 2 years, and then I promised to myself, you know what, I know it's gonna change, and when that
Yeah.
changes, like I'll be able to put what I think into words fast.
There you
And
go. And now you have podcasts, you have videos, you have like
I
I would
like,
have never
yeah.
guessed that 6 years ago you didn't know English. Like
Yeah,
that's incredible.
it's crazy. It's crazy, but like you just start from somewhere, and because it's the weirdest thing is that like I studied English for 4 years, 5 years in Ukraine, but then you don't really study it because you don't speak it, right? It's like reading the book, but you don't
Yeah.
really get it. You don't really learn it.
Yeah. Yeah. Very, very good point.
All right. So okay. Let me ask you a few more final questions, and I think we're good to go.
Sure.
In terms of the B2B companies and social media in those companies, how do you think that they could do it in a more effective way, more human way versus what they're doing right now? Because a lot of times when you see posts, whether it's on Instagram or on Twitter from brands, they are very they're really not human. They're very like they feel from a company, and others don't really want to engage with those.
Yeah, no, it's a great question, and I see it a lot too. I see it a lot where some people are just like they have that set it and forget it mentality. It's like, okay, these are the 5 tweets we're putting out. They're blog posts. They're scheduled. We're good to go. But I think that's just the beginning of your social media strategy, right? You have to then you can have those scheduled posts, but you have to humanize that channel or that platform. So you have to, whether it's having a person behind the post, so you actually have that brand ambassador, or whether it's the way that you're engaging in the stories or engaging in the comments or even in the caption. I think that's where you're gonna win business on social media. So you need to have those polls on stories, which are so great. It's like, you know,
Yes.
you could be a startup, but you could still do daily polls of like, what's your favorite snack, and like you list different snacks because startups have these snacks,
Yes.
and that garners the attention of other people who can relate to that, you know. So it doesn't always have to be like, I'm gonna push this service, I'm gonna push this product, blah blah blah, go to my profile and, you know, learn more about how you can work with me or whatever it is. It's you're selling, yes, you're pushing that message, but you're also engaging with the people. And I truly believe that if you are on a platform, whether it's Instagram, Twitter, whatever it is, try to engage with at least 1 to 5 people that you either want to have as your client or someone that would engage with your kind of content every day. So every day, your goal should be to engage with 1 to 5 new people. 5 is a good number because you can do that.
I love that.
It's achievable. Yeah, reach out to
It's a
5.
great advice. Great advice.
Thank you. Yeah, reach out to 5 new people. They could be potential clients. It can be just someone in your space, whatever it may be, and start engaging with them. And then you're going to curate that list of people you're following, which are relevant to you, and they are going to come for your content. So, yeah, I think humanizing and engagement is huge for B2B.
So important. Like I think something that I didn't understand either is that it's not about putting out the content, even if it's great. Like you're gonna get like 2 or 3 likes, even if it's an amazing content, even if it's better than other people's content that already gets hundreds of thousands of views. And the
Yeah.
reason why is because you don't have an audience. And the way to build an audience is exactly to do what you did, to what you just said,
Yes.
is to engage with those 1 to 5 people a day. It's like what Gary Vee says, like 5 cent strategy or like 10 cent strategy. It's where you like, whether it's your prospect or whether it's a person that would be interested in your content, you connect with them, well, maybe on
Yes.
LinkedIn, or you leave a comment, and guess what? They will absolutely be interested because they know that you're real. Like you are
Yes.
posting too.
Yeah, exactly. You are engaging with their content. So it's not, although there are bots now, when you are truly engaging with someone's caption or someone's image or someone's story, you know that there's a real person behind that account. And that's going to win over and over again.
And the benefit of bots, I think, is that it's a lot easier to stand out because a lot of other people are fake, or a lot of other people just do this
Yes.
like this thumbs up emoji,
Yeah.
and that's nothing, right?
Yeah, yeah, exactly. Take all of that with a grain of salt. There are so many bots, so many people trying to buy followers, do this or that. But if you stick to your strategy, stick to that engagement, set a time daily that you're going to engage and you're going to, meet new friends online. Think of them as friends, and you will grow. You will grow.
And where's everybody can find you online? What would be the main channels?
Sure. So I think everything is my name. So you just find Anum Rubec on Instagram. That's ANUMRUBEC. And then my website is withanum.com where all of my content is filtered. And yeah,
Awesome. We'll
that's
link it all in
me.
the show notes so everybody could go check out what you're doing. And yeah, you've got
Perfect.
great content.
Thank
Any
you.
final messages to the audience? Something that I have missed or something we didn't cover?
I think we covered a lot of good things. I would just say, if you're interested in being a content creator, whether it's for B2B or for yourself, be consistent, have a strategy, have like those strong content pillars that you can lean on and push out ideas through, and engage. Like you have to engage with your community.
So true.
Those are
So
my
true.
tips.
So true. No, I love it. I love it. And it was a pleasure. Thank you for coming. It was a great conversation.
Thank you so much for having me. This was really fun.
It was.